My friends, I'd like to share a classic Chassidic story. I heard it a couple of times from my cousin Shlomo, and it is also based on this week's Parsha, the second portion called Kedoshim. In it says, V'ohavto l'reyacha kamocha. You must love your fellow as yourself. And furthermore it says, Lo yisamoid al dam reyacha. Do not stand idly by while your fellow, your brother's life is in danger. Do everything you can to help them. So this is a story about a famous Chassidic Rebbe. His name was Reb Moshe Leib Sassov. He lived 150 or more years ago in Eastern Europe. And he was obviously a great scholar, a great Rebbe with many, many Chassidim. But his specific mitzvah that he spent his life, he devoted his life to, is a mitzvah called Pidyon Shevuim. That is redeeming captives. And that is a specific mitzvah to go out of your way to help any of our fellow human beings who are in captivity for whatever reason. And this happened especially in Eastern Europe at that time, because under Tsarist Russia, there were people called aporets. Aporets was a squire, a feudal lord who owned many lands at that time. And then within those lands, there would be kretschmas, there would be inns, there would be lakes, there would be woods, there would be many different ways that Jewish families would try and earn their living. So you can hire a kretschma, an inn, which also served as a bar, and the people would come, and that's the way you would support your family, make a living, and pay the rent. Unfortunately, even before the virus, there were also communities who were in lockdown. For example, if in the neighborhood that you hired that kretschmer, it was a fierce winter and no one could travel, then you made no income. And we all know that if you make no income, you can't pay your bills, as we are experiencing at present. So today, Baruch Hashem, you can make some arrangements with the banks or something, but in those days, it wasn't so simple. If you couldn't pay the poritz, the squire, your rent, he had a right to do whatever he wanted to you. You were like his serf. He could, first of all, kill your family. He can kidnap your children. But the most common thing they did was throw the Jew and his family into a dungeon, into a pit. And it was a very dangerous thing, but that served the purpose that perhaps other Jews hearing about this guy in the dungeon would come to their aid. They would collect money and in that way pay up the rent, and then the poritz would let the family go. So this was Reb Moshe Leib's life focus. He would travel around from community to community, and when he would hear of a family in the dungeon that needed help, he wouldn't rest. He didn't stop. He did everything in his power to collect the money and to go to the poritz, give him the rent, and free the Jewish family from their burdens, and in that way redeem them. There were occasions that he couldn't help. There was just no way for whatever reason. And then he would at least sit and be with that family in their sorrow, because he felt that an empathy, a shared sorrow, is also a great help to people. As I say, that is what he devoted so much of his life to. And the Rebbe tells that when Reb Moshe Leib Sassov passed away, then what happens is that your neshama, as it leaves your body, is escorted by two angels. Now, it's a long thing to discuss another time, the Jewish concept of Gehenna, of purgatory, or what they call hell. But one of the concepts of hell is that it is a preparationary step between leaving the physical plane and the spiritual plane. Because when we do a transgression, when we do a aveda or a sin, that is similar to causing a stain on the body, and the Gehenna is a cleansing process. And the truth is, we are told that everybody goes through Gehenna. The question is for the duration and how severe it is. Even a Rebbe could go through Gehenna on the way to the heavenly court, on the way to his paradise. And for him, it is like a mikveh. So this Rebbe tells that when Reb Moshe Leib Sassov's neshama was being escorted through Gehenna, and the angel said, "Come, this is not your place. You're just going through quickly like a mikveh to purify you for the spiritual plane." He stopped and he looked around and he saw so many Yiddish neshamas, so many people languishing and suffering here in their purgatory. And he turned to the escorting angels and he said, I thought that there are Shevuim, there are captives on earth. But here, now I see there are equally many captives right here in the spiritual plane in Gehenna and purgatory who are suffering so much. And just like in my lifetime, I was focused on Pidyon Shevuim, on redeeming captives, I would like to request that I be able to do the same here. Tell me what I have to do to redeem all these captives that I see and take them out with me. And if you don't feel that I can, then the other thing I did when I met people I couldn't help is I stayed with them and I participated in their sorrow. So if you don't allow me to take them out with me, then my option is to stay here with them. The escorting angel said, Reb Moshe Leib, you may have a good claim, but we are not the right avenue to make your claims to. You'd have to come with us to the Bezdin Shalmaila, to the heavenly court, and let them hear your claims and let them decide what will be with you. So come with us to the Bezdin Shalmaila. So Reb Moshe Leib, this holy tzaddik, says, I know your shtick, I know your spitzlach. You're just trying to get me out of here. And once I'm out, they'll never allow me to return. So no, if you want the heavenly court to hear my claims, then tell them that I am here and I'm not moving. Let them come down to Gehenna to hear it. My friends, it says, Tzaddik Geizev HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mekayim. An absolute great tzaddik has the power to make decrees even on the heavenly court. So there was no option left. The heavenly court had to come down to Gehenna to hear Reb Moshe Leib's claims. And I've already told you the claims, namely that as I helped all the captives on earth, that was my mission in life, I request that I be able to help the captives here in Gehenna and take them out with me, otherwise I remain here. Ask yourself, what would you do if you were the heavenly court? But in the Chassidic annals, there are two endings to the story. As Shlomo tells, and you could choose which you like best. The first ending is that they said, Reb Moshe Leib, we will check your records, what you did in life. And if we find that every single opportunity you had, that you were requested to help somebody, and you helped them, and you didn't even refuse once that you were able to, then if you didn't refuse anyone once, we can't refuse you here either. But if we check your records and we find that someone requested your help and you were in the position to help them and you just refused to, then on that basis we can refuse you too. And when they checked the records, this Reb Moshe Leib was such a holy tzaddik, was such a great servant of God, they found that he had not refused even one time to help that he had the opportunity to. And so that Rebbe says, as a result of that, Reb Moshe Leib succeeding in taking all the neshamas that were in Gehenna at that time out with him. The only sad thing is, it didn't take long for Gehenna to fill up again. That's the first ending. The second is maybe a little deeper. They said, Reb Moshe Leib, for every neshama, every favor you did on earth, you could take out one neshama with you. And they counted up all the favors that he did. And would you believe it? It turned out to be exactly the same amount of neshamas that there were in Gehenna at that time. And so this Rebbe says, as a result of the favors he did, he was able to take out exactly all the neshamas that were in Gehenna at that time. He never had to make a Sophie's choice. And so, my friends, the lesson of this story is such a deep one. And that is that every time you do a favor for someone else, you're schlepping them out of a Gehenna, out of a purgatory, out of a hell. Be it a physical hell or a spiritual hell. Remember, the time we are living in through now is at the most opportune time to help one another out. Love your fellow as yourself. Let us not sit idly by when our brothers and sisters need our assistance. Help them, because every favor you do is actually schlepping them out of a personal hell. And in that way, may God schlep us out of all our difficulties, or out of all our constraints, or out of all our limitations and the difficulties that so many are going through. And let him take us out of the worst dungeon, the worst prison of all, which is exile, with the coming of Mashiach. Shabbat Shalom. God bless you. Thank you for watching.